like we always do on Thursdays, we bring you the divorce series. KMJ,
Yep. We're ready. So it's been how many weeks?
3 weeks.
3 weeks already, yeah?
Yes, 3 weeks. Actually,
it's
4 weeks.
Yeah,
because it's actually 5 weeks for this month. And so we've already done 4 weeks. And next Monday will be our final episode.
Wow.
The message has really gone down well, I must say. It's been really loved by many. Yesterday I was saying, I went somewhere and somebody actually asked me about it. I was surprised. I was really, really surprised. I was like, whoa, it's gone that far? And the person didn't talk about anything but a divorce series. That's a good thing. That's a good thing. Our guest is seated as Senna Hotu, who is our lawyer, a squaw. He's seated right here. Good morning, Senna.
Good morning, guys.
How are you?
I'm doing very well, thank you.
I know you've gotten popular with the divorce series as well.
well, that is if it's not breaking it, in any way.
Well,
it's more stress then.
Well, to be very honest, I'm not so heavy on social media, so I'm not. I don't even know what's happening.
Okay.
Because sometimes you're there and then you get messages, on some of the episodes, and then the follow-up questions. Just even yesterday, someone sent some questions, and I am like, okay, you know what? I think it will be better suited for the show. So send it to the show so that other people can also benefit from it and stuff like that. So yeah, I wouldn't say popular, but we're trying.
No pressure.
That's good. No pressure. Anyway, okay.
So Monday we, continued the conversation on spousal property distribution and all of that. We spoke about properties before marriage, in the marriage, and yes, we got some few people also sending messages about what they think. Some very interesting things happening with people. Some men taking over properties that were meant for kids. The mom is passed on, and the man says he will not give it to them. He bought the land, and all of those things. Today we'll be looking at, I think one of the major things that we want to look at today is how we are able to now say, okay, we've distributed the properties. How does the person get the properties? For example, if a house is given to me, how do I get it? If the person is still living in it, how do I vacate the person from the place? If a car is given to me, for example, how do I retrieve the car from the person? Because obviously in the processes, the car will be for whoever or will be with whoever it is with. Is there any way the law comes in? Does the police have to do that? Do you have to go and call your family members to come and help you with that? So maybe you can just, begin from where we left off a bit last Monday, and then we'll get into this one deeper.
Okay. So rather, let me just give a snapshot of or attempt to give a response to the question you just posed, and then I'll do the recap and then complete it on that. So when a judgment is given, so either in a divorce or any other matter, it doesn't automatically means that, yes, you've been given the thing, but you don't automatically assume ownership of it.
Okay.
So there's a process, the legal process called execution of judgment. So you go through that process so that if it's what we call immovable property or a house or anything of a sort, other people may be in. So the process will require that you serve them a notice, and all other persons within that property, citing what we call the entry of judgment. So you would quote what the court had said, the orders that the court had given, which are the final judgments of the court. You quote those and then you attach it to the entry of judgment, and you have it, you go through the legal process, and it's served on the people that are, in occupation of that property. And then once they get that notice, it's essentially a notice to tell them to vacate of a sort, because judgment has been given in your favor or the other way around. So once they receive it, most often people will just move their stuff and then get out. But if they fail to do that, there's another step of the execution process that uses the sheriffs or the the officers of the court to go through an execution process and then get that property to you. Then also beyond that, once you have had physical possession, or even before that, you can go through the process of vesting. We call it vesting. So vesting is more or less like transferring the ownership from the person that currently has it to the person that is going to have it, you know, for keeps. You understand? So that is the process that happens. So people usually go through the whole process, get judgments, and then they are excited, and you know
the next thing is you
go there and you tell the person that get out of my house.
Yeah.
At that point, when the judgment hasn't been executed, you can't do that. You can't do that. So that's
how long does it take with that process?
It depends, but typically the rules of court provides number of days, so that once you have a judgment, the idea is that you have to serve them that you intend to execute the judgment, so that if they were not excited about how the judge went through the whole process in court and they want to appeal, they can go through, they can notify you of their intention to appeal, stay your execution, and then appeal and stuff like that. But we don't want you to ambush someone and then they probably may not have even been present at court at the time that ruling was given. And then you just go ahead and then sell their property or anything of the sort. So you have to follow the process. You have to follow the process.
Let's talk about the appeal. How many times can one appeal before you know that finally this is yours? Because like you're saying, the judge has said that it's mine, but we have period where people can come appeal. And so how many times does the person have an opportunity to keep appealing before we can finally say, okay, now it's completely mine and I can sell it off, or I can move you out of the property?
Oh, you can go as far as you want. So for example, if your matter commences or starts at the district court, which proud to until recently, you could not have commenced it at the district court, but now you can. So if it starts there and then you're not happy, you appeal to the High Court. If you're not happy, you go straight to the Court of Appeal. You're not happy, you go to Supreme Court, and so on and so forth.
So then when do you can you actually take ownership? Full ownership then?
Yes, so before you appeal, you must meet some basic requirements. You don't just appeal for appealing's sake. And so if you don't meet the requirement, the essence of the appeal is not to deny somebody the fruits of the benefit of, you know, winning a case or a judgment. And so you must show a threshold. And then also, we also want to afford you the opportunity to appeal, because imagine you're on the other side. And then I'll talk about a case, or, you know, within the show, and then you would see how the appeal process was so helpful, because the woman lost on all of it and then won at the Supreme Court.
Oh, wow.
Oh.
Yes. And it has become a landmark case.
Wow.
You know, so if you
can change a lot then.
Yes, it does. You can have a case start from the High Court and then move. You get one ruling, you go to the Court of Appeal, you get a different ruling, and you go to the Supreme Court, and then the Supreme Court may either affirm the decision of the trial court or the Court of Appeal. So when you are not comfortable, the law allows you to appeal. It's not also supposed to be used as delay tactics and then all of that, because if you go and you lose, you pay
fine.
Yeah, you pay damages for it.
Okay.
You may be made to pay costs, what we call in law. So we don't want to, if you have a case, by all means, you know, advance the course of your client's case. But if you don't, let them make peace with it and then move on.
Okay.
Now, in terms of the appeal, if you decide that you want to appeal, and maybe you, the man or the woman, you decided, okay, this is what I want, can your lawyers look at it, the merit of it, and say that, okay, we think if you do A, B, C, D, it won't help you. So, but the man or the woman strongly believes that I think I can make some difference here. How do you go about this in terms of who to listen to?
As a lawyer, you act on the instructions of your client, the person who pays you, pretty much. And so your job at this point is to explain what the position of the law is, and then let them know the probability of success of the matter. And you tell them, depending on your philosophy as a lawyer or as a firm, there are some firms that will not take certain cases. It doesn't matter how much you're paying. Once they've done the legal analysis and then they realize that it's not going anywhere, they wouldn't want to be a part of it. So they will not go ahead with it. So ultimately, it depends on two people, the lawyer and the firm, who will decide that, well, I don't want to go and disgrace myself up there. And so this is the position of the law. It's trite, everybody knows it, and the decision that was reached by the Honorable Court, justices of the court, in his or her opinion, is right. But if a lawyer says he doesn't want to continue, is not comfortable with proceeding with your appeal, it doesn't stop you. You can get another lawyer. So there are other people who will be comfortable. You may never know. You can go on appeal and then you will be successful. The fact that
with the same case, the other lawyer says that
yes,
it's possible you will not make any.
Because we all don't think alike. Even as lawyers, we all don't think alike.
But there are some instances that are very evident that this case, any other lawyer
is a dead case.
Well, you never say never. Okay. Sometimes cases have turned on appeal just because of one word. So a lawyer may do analysis on the big things, on the law and then all of that, but there's just one word that they missed out, that another lawyer may look at and then be able to identify and go like, okay, I have this one thing I'm going to stand on to have this whole thing, quashed. And so there are differences in legal opinions and in all of that. But on the average, most lawyers will give you the same thing, will tell you the same. The position of the law is the same. It doesn't matter whether you are talking to any senior lawyer or a junior lawyer or not. The position of the law is the same.
The same. Well, talking about this, I really want to hear the story that you said you were going to tell us, how somebody lost in all the courts, but when she got to what, Supreme Court?
Yes.
She won the case.
Yes.
Tell us about it.
So if I do a bit of a recap of last Monday, so we talked basically about three things.
Yeah.
The first one is properties acquired before marriage, which we said that it doesn't form part of the distribution, the properties to be distributed. And then we talked about properties acquired during marriage. And with that as well, we talked about both movable and immovable properties that are acquired during marriage and its distribution. Then I left out the last one for today. And that's where this case and this story fits in. There are a lot of people that are living together. People have promised to marry them, and then they see marriage as imminent. And so they begin to work together, do business together, acquire properties together. And then some way, somehow, it doesn't work out. And for some of them, they lose out of it because, the man or the woman says that, well, the property is in my name. I bought it. You can't show anything, and so that's it. And so that brings us to the story of two Ghanaians that lived abroad, I believe Italy, and they met each other, dated for about 5 years. Then they decided, they wanted to marry. In fact, the man had promised marriage to the woman, and the woman felt that, okay, you know what? If I'm going to build a family with this gentleman that I've met here abroad, we're both Ghanaians, and we all want to come home someday. So if I'm going to build a family, let's, begin to do things together. And the woman did so many jobs, even including commercial sex work.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And whatever she makes, she puts it in the man's account. So the man comes to Ghana, the woman orders things, put them in containers, so that when he comes, they sell it, and then the proceeds accrued, they acquire properties together here in Ghana and some over there. They virtually did a lot of business together. He bought Mercedes. I mean, she bought Mercedes C-Class, vehicles, shipped them in. The guy sold some of them, kept some and drove for himself. They started building houses and stuff like that. And then things began to go sideways. From the story as it's told in the courts and reported in our law reports. It so happened that the friction began to occur, and then the guy began to see other people. The lady came, and it was a big issue back and forth. The guy complained that he's not interested in marrying somebody who is doing commercial sex work and stuff like that. Meanwhile, he was the one taking all the money, doing all the things that needed to be done, buying houses and stuff like that. So fast forward, the whole thing broke down. The woman came back, requested, she even took loans for this guy.
Wow.
And the woman came back requesting for, okay, you know what, if you're not going to marry me again, give me back all my things I've given you. So for this one is a bit easy to trace because there are bank transfers, there are documents of papers and stuff like that. So the court was faced with whether or not those properties were spousal properties, whether or not those properties...
Because they're not legally married.
It's not even legally. They are not even married in any other sense. You understand? Even though you could push the argument that they've been informally married. When you stay with somebody...
Over 5 years? Or
not
how many
over
years?
5 years. Time is not really the most important element.
Okay.
The fact that you've stayed together, you've lived together, you have kids, you do business together, everybody knows you as, this is this guy's husband, wife, and that we can confer that you guys are married. You don't even have to go and do any traditional marriage or anything.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, the law will confer it on you, and that's what we call the informal marriages. So,
is there a period of time? Because yes, you have to, be together before you can have it. Like, children and all of that. So do we say that the minimum is 2 years or is 5 years?
There are no minimums. There are people who may have lived together for 5 years and they live together, but everybody knows that, this one is not any serious thing because they see other girls or other guys.
Some have done like 7 years.
Yeah, some have done that, but everybody knows that, this one is just like what we call in our local dialect, impanache, But there are other situations that it's like 1 year, but like they go to church dressed the same attire and everybody knows that they do things that will make you know, or we can infer that these are more like a couple of a sort. So those ones, the law will put that on you.
So
now,
for example, now we'll go back. For example, so if there's a case and you go to the court, for example, and I want to clarify Rosalind's question so that maybe we can get some clarity from there.
All right.
If you now go to court and there's a case, will the court say that, okay, you've been together for 2 years, or people have seen you do this for 6 months, so in that case, you are married. We'll confer on you that you're married.
Okay. So when you go to court, the court will not tell you anything. You have to prove your case.
Okay.
So people will want to say, we are married for the purposes of distribution of property. Because when you are married to somebody who is deceased and then the person doesn't have a will, the PNDC law 111 gives a certain percentage to the surviving spouse. And if you're not a spouse, you don't get that one. So people will want to make that argument of, we're married and I'm spouse, or when it comes to other benefits, a spouse will get. And so they'll make that argument. So you must come to court and demonstrate the acts that when you put together, you can convince the mind of the average Joe that you guys are more or less like married.
Okay.
So it will be inferred that you're customarily married. So informal customary law marriage will be inferred from that conduct.
Even if you've done those things, you're using as proof for just 2 months.
Yes.
Maybe within that 2 months, I was washing your things, I was doing that, so I can say all of these things I've done for 2 months,
yes.
and that should qualify me
as a wife.
As a wife.
No, you're saying them to convince the court, and then ultimately that decision of whether to confer that marriage on
so the
you
court will decide.
Will be, on the court. But you will have a very good chance. I don't see how maybe 1 month or 2 months will, because even before you give birth, it will take about 9 months.
9 months, yeah.
And so if you're going to, have those kind of arguments, you need to
be a bit logical about it.
Yes, you need to have solid evidence that you can put together, to advance that line of argument.
Okay. All right.
Yes.
So you continue with your story.
So we got to the point where the lady requested for her portion of the properties, and the guy refused. Because, hey, I came to Ghana, I sold the things, I did the business, and so the profit is mine. The lady traced, came back to Ghana, and unfortunately, she also couldn't go back because of documentations, and still trusted this gentleman and gave him extra money to help him get her documents back so that she can go back. She's here and she's not working, she's not making an income, and then all of that. Now, the guy refused to help. The guy refused to give her back her properties. She actually went, on a mental breakdown. She had to go and stay with her family and stuff like that. Now, she commenced an action in court to get back the things that she had, put into the man, and in the process, with the hope that they were going to get married. Now, the court, at the trial stage, had different decisions. So it had to keep getting appeal, and then it went till they got to the Supreme Court. Now, the court had to determine whether this was a spousal property, which it said no, it wasn't. But that is where the Supreme Court created a whole new area. And then the Supreme Court said that the woman giving the money to the man and all that properties that was bought, all the asset was bought from the money she had sent. The man was just a custodian of it. She was just a caretaker. The man was just a caretaker. And that he was holding all those properties in trust for the lady. And so the court ordered him to give everything back to the woman.
Wow. And
so the point I'm trying to arrive at with this case, which you can easily refer to, is called Amasewa versus Hashim Ogariba. These are cases that you can just Google and then you can get them. The point I'm trying to arrive is that when you acquire property together before marriage, that property becomes joint or co-owned. And so you have an interest in it. And so if that potential married thing doesn't work, you can legally make an application to the court through your lawyer and get a percentage or a portion of your contribution towards acquisition of that property. So you don't go home or you don't go away empty-handed.
Right. There's this thing that I met a woman who advised me. I wasn't even married at that time. And what she said was that when she got married, she and her husband had everything to do. Their names, their properties were Mr. and Mrs. with a surname. Mr. and Mrs. with a surname. When they went to court, they said but Mrs. could be anybody. And so it should have been Mr. Senna and Mrs. Roslyn Hotu. Please clarify that for us.
Okay. So, yes, for nomenclature purposes or for naming and writing purposes, it's okay, it's nice to have it there. But the most important thing is, when was those properties acquired? So you can, as a man or a woman, you can just go and buy a property and you don't even tell your spouse about it, put only your name on it. It doesn't have any effect. It still belongs to the two of you. Once it was acquired during marriage, and then it wasn't acquired as a self sole self-acquired property, then it belongs to the two of you. So it doesn't matter what name is on the document, whether you put just your name, you put Mr., or you put Mr. and Mrs., or you put the full names.
What if you put your child?
You put in your child on the
or your mother, or your sister, or your brother.
Then again, it brings us back to the concept of tracing. Who is the person holding it in trust for you? And so you may be using that process to hide assets. But once the legal process of tracing commences, and we can establish that, no, you just put in the person's name there to just avoid or evade the process of courts, then the courts, with all of its might and power, will come after that asset. Yes.
Okay.
So it means that this thing is
you can't hide it.
Yeah,
I'm just wondering because but some people have been able to get away with it.
You see, it appears you've gotten away with it because the other party is not putting up a fight or getting a lawyer that knows their stuff. You understand? But if you have a lawyer that knows their stuff, like myself, you won't get away with it.
But you know, recent case of this footballer, I've forgotten his name.
Yes, Hakimi.
Where his properties were in the name of his mother. What about that?
That will work in his country, not here.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Here it's different.
Yes.
Oh, then that's good.
Because you see, the issue then has to be with why the woman is holding all those properties. For who? And for what reason?
So,
right? So if it's established that, okay, I'm holding it in trust of my son, then it means that...
It's still for the son.
So it means, so it means that they can easily take it away
in Ghana, that's what he's saying. But when it goes...
So you look at the case we just talked about, and it's the same principle. One person has bought the properties all in his name, but we know where the money came from. And so the court can say that, no, even though you have bought this property all in your name, we can establish where the money is coming from. And so we will come to the conclusion that you are just holding those properties in trust for that person. And so if we need to get a property that belongs to that person, we'll come after that.
Wow.
Yes.
Does it get to a point to where maybe if those properties are being taken back to the other part, the courts will now decide that, okay, because in this case, we're looking at contributions, right? So if I am able to, as it were, receive those funds and done something good with them, does it mean that the court is taking everything away from me and I benefit nothing?
It's not your money.
But in the marriage or relationship or affair or whatever it is, I was also contributing.
Yes. So
if a woman is warming my bed and is supposed to be getting something out of it for simply sitting in the house and warming my bed, why is it that I, who was receiving all the monies and putting them into projects or whatever it is, you take everything from me?
The gender activists will come after you.
Do you take everything, or you actually
no, really, it won't be fair. Yeah,
it's a percentage.
It's a
okay,
property.
We understand. Yes, I was holding it in trust. They say they want to take everything.
Yeah.
So the property.
If I built a house for you with your money, I built the house. I contributed in building the house.
Okay. So there are two things over here.
Okay.
Whether I'm sending you money and you're building for me, or I'm sending you money and you're also contributing towards that money, and then adding those contributions to build the house. Are you building it for me as a contractor, or you're...
As a partner.
So if you're building it as a partner, it means that you can also demonstrate that you have put some effort in there, you have contributed.
Going to the side.
So you need to prove that contribution, show it. So once you can demonstrate that you have done some contribution in court, the court will make
So in this case, it means the guy didn't do any of that?
No.
How pathetic. Because really, if you built a house, you went to the site.
That's true.
And then again, I'll refer to the aspect where we said that a woman can be in the house. And I mean, Nat was very, very serious about it. all the woman does is that, okay, I was woman.
I think it's just
more to
there's
over.
more.
There's nothing like
still the same thing now.
No. There's nothing
it
like.
was part of
Maybe
it. I'm
coming out of the gender activist right now, right?
It was part of it.
There is
right?
nothing like just
Lawyer, it was
woman in
part of
bed.
it.
She
It is
will wash
part
your
of
things.
it.
She will cook for you. She will keep the house clean. If you have children, she's running around. It is a whole.
Okay,
so if I was going to
full-time
receive the money
job.
at the bank and can't knock me and I feel
It's a full-time job. It's a full-time. You hire house helps and you pay
if
the
you
house
send the money
helps.
and I'm going to the bank and I'm going to collect the money and anything happened to me, was that not doing your
so show all of that in
Just
court.
show it.
That's what I'm
That's
saying.
it. So you see, I think it's just oversimplification of the issue to say that the role of a wife or a woman is just to warm beds.
No,
I think
nothing
it's
like
It was part of
yes,
the.
I think it's an
Right.
oversimplification
Nothing
of
like
the
that.
issues, and I will vehemently disagree with that because we have a lot of beautiful, hard-working women who go, work hard, and it's way
But it was
beyond.
part of the
It's way
contribution.
beyond.
But
it's way
even
beyond that.
being at home and not going to
It's a full-time
5
job.
to, or is it 9 to 8 or 5 to 6? It's still a full-time job because what you do when you are raising those children, trust me, it's
But when a man does
because
that,
when
it's
we
not a
bring
full-time job.
it is
It is.
because when we bring in
In what
nannies,
cases?
when we bring in
There have been
nannies,
many cases
we end
where
up
men-
paying the nannies
Rose,
as
there
a
have been
job.
many cases
So
men
why is
have
it that
done
when
more than
she's
what
at
you're
home,
saying.
it is not
and
a
the
job?
woman has said
It's a
that you're
job.
only sitting at home, you're not contributing anything.
No,
There are cases like that.
Anytime a woman says that, what the woman is saying is that you are not bringing money to the table. But you know what?
But the
There are
woman's
so
not going
many
to bring
women
money.
out there that I can tell you for a fact that their husbands told them, stay at home,
Yeah.
take care of the children,
Yeah.
so that I go to work and bring the money.
Yes.
It is
And at the end of the
full-time
day, the men have been in problems because the women felt that they were not doing anything.
How?
That's
I
what I'm
don't-
saying.
I don't
There'll be
understand.
cases like that.
No, I don't
There'll be cases
understand
where men have been in the
No.
house and they have told them,
Which woman would tell her husband that they
Alright, I
at
said,
home?
let me go and do what I want to do, and you sit in the house.
There is no woman out there who will tell her husband
It's always
stay at
good
home
when a
and take care
woman
of the children.
but
It
it's
doesn't
always
happen.
another case when the man does
Some
that.
men will tell their woman, especially some women are so. Listen, I know somebody who is a lawyer whose husband says, "Don't practice because when you go, you come back late.
Yeah.
So I want you to stay at home, sell diapers, and take care of the children."
Yeah.
Or sometimes I tell you, "Don't do anything, just stay at home. I will give you money at the end of the month."
Yeah.
Sometimes they don't even give at all. I know some lady. She was working with her husband in the same company. They got married. Husband says, "Stay at
That
home."
would be
and take care
difficult for
of the
that man
children.
to say that the woman has not
happens.
contributed anything.
Yes.
But it would be easy for a
They
woman to
say
say
it.
a man has not contributed
Because
anything.
you are supposed to work.
Okay, so you see,
It's the same thing.
the law on these matters is gender neutral. That's one of the beautiful things about Ghanaian laws. I mean, I don't know about other countries, but if you say in Ghana there's oppression of women, then you clearly do not know what the Ghanaian laws look like. Because in most workplaces in Ghana, people are adding male, female. Once you're in the same role, you take the same amount.
Exactly.
It doesn't really matter. And the laws, as we have it here, will say that the partner or the spouse has to prove their contribution. It doesn't say the man has to prove or the woman has to prove. So if you come to court and then you bring an action to court, file a petition or issue a writ or whichever means of commencing of action that you take, it is your responsibility. The burden is on you to prove all the allegations you're making in there. It's not on the court to assume things for you. You have to prove it. And if you fail to prove it, it's on you. If you fail to prove it, it means that you don't get the reliefs you came to court to seek for. You understand? So I believe that these things are gender neutral. And so whoever comes to court, whoever feels that they've been treated badly, should go to court and then make the allegation. In the case of Amasewa, it was she that made the application to the court, and she mentioned her reliefs. She indicated the things that she wanted. So there's probably more or other assets that she didn't list that the guy will get. You understand? But she is demanding for a fair share of what is due her because she can prove using the bank statements, the bank transfers, the container shipping documents that shows that she ordered them, the receipts to show the things that she bought and put all into the container and brought it. And so she can establish all of that. And so once you can do that, then you can tell the court that, look, these things are mine. At best, he's an employee. And so I should be benefiting from it.
Well, it looks like it's getting interesting, but unfortunately, we have to continue Monday, Senna. So Monday, we are coming back to continue with this conversation. And it will be the grand finale, actually. So if you have any questions, please do send in your questions to us ahead of time so that when Senna gets seated, we can bombard him with the questions and he can give all the answers. But thank you so much for being here today.
It has been incredible. I mean,
it's a pleasure.
We can't pay you for this.
Pleasure.
You've been amazing.
Yeah, he has.
You know, some things that I'm even getting clarity on and all that, you know, because I've got friends of mine around me who have, you know, issues like these, and the understanding I'm getting right now.
Anyway, it's been a good day, and so we say thank you so much for sticking and staying with us all the way from 6 a.m. to 10 a.m. My name is Rosalind Felly. His name is
KMJ.